All right. All right. We are here live with Alexa Carlin, and I am so excited for you guys to meet this gem of a human being. She's like a superhuman in all the things that she does. And I know it's going to bless you today. So wherever you're tuning in from, whether it's live with us or you're here on the podcast thereafter, you have to go immediately, not right this second, immediately after you listen to everything that she's about to divulge to you, and check out Alexa Carlin on all things, as well as womenempowerx.com, and same thing on Instagram, because it is something that is going to take by force. And I know that it already has so many people who are ready to up level not only their purpose, but their impact through business. And so we're going to dive deep with you, Alexa. Are you excited about this?
Yeah, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. You guys, her testimony is beautiful. And I think it's always something that really shows character when you know the backstory of what people have gone through in order to sit and stand in the crown that they were always planned to wear. But it took a while to get there, right? That grit that it takes to get to the place that we have. And from the outside looking in, it can look like success. And I think everybody's definition of success is different. So let's talk through what that backstory is for you and what maybe even success has evolved into based on that backstory.
Yeah, definitely. So it's definitely been a long road to get here. And I've been an entrepreneur since I'm 17 years old, always with the mission to make a difference in at least one person's life every single day. And I fell in love with turning an idea into reality, and at a young age saw that entrepreneurship was my vehicle to make that impact, to make that difference. And I was growing multiple different ventures, blogs, getting really into social media throughout like college years. And then when I was 21 years old, I had a crazy near-death experience a few months before graduating, where my body went into septic shock and I was induced into a medical coma, given a 1% chance to live. And that changed my life forever. Not only what I experienced in the coma and that experience in itself, but also 6 months later, I was actually diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, which is a chronic health condition that I live with every single day. And it was a long 7-year journey of getting to the point where I'm at now, of finally feeling like I'm healthy most days. Of course, it's just been such a hard journey, but through that, I really turned my obstacles into an opportunity to share my story vulnerably and authentically as a speaker, which led to the idea behind the Women Empower X.
So incredible. So I want to unpack that a bit, because that's a lot of information in a speed up, fast forward version of your life, right? So 17, you said you became an entrepreneur. So what did that look like? What was sparked inside of you? Did you know that this was something you wanted to do since you were young? I have a 7-year-old, so he already has this entrepreneurial spirit about him. Both me and my husband are both entrepreneurs. So did you know early on?
Well, my parents say that when they asked me what I want to be when I grew up, I always said I want to be a CEO, and I didn't even know what CEO stood for. I just knew that I wanted to make a difference, and I felt like that was the way. Obviously, there's a million ways that you can make a difference, but I actually was very, very shy as a kid. I was so shy in middle school where I wouldn't even raise my hand in class. Super, super shy, and it was going into high school, getting involved with student government. I went to a high school of 4,000 students, and I became the first junior to become student body president. And that changed my life, something that I never thought I would be able to do, publicly speak, represent the entire student body to the faculty, the staff, the parents. And that was my first dive into actually speaking. But it was through mentors believing in me and kind of just going for it. And I remember at that moment when I got elected, this was very pivotal in my journey. I remember feeling like, if I could do this, what else can I do? And it was something that I felt was bigger than myself and for the greater good of my school community. And so that's really what helped me get out of my shell and into leadership.
That is so amazing. I think that student government, and as I interview more people, it really is like a pivotal place where people start to understand this opportunity in entrepreneurship, because it makes you think outside of the box. You have this level of servant leadership that occurs there, but also this ability to do things that are outside the norm of what a traditional student is doing, in the sense of putting on assemblies, speaking in front of hundreds of people, having that representation on your shoulders. It's like politics, but really, really early, right? And without all of the craziness. At least I didn't think so, even though, we got that stamp of nerd, at least our high school did, and middle school and elementary school, that you were in student body president. You had like teacher's pet on your head. You had a brown noser on your nose all the time.
That's funny. Yeah.
So it's interesting how student government plays such a key role in that, and something that I think is so vital as people continue to nurture from a parenting perspective. How can you bring that out, whether your child's in student government or there's some other way for them to get involved? I have mother friends who have their kids in debate. And I think that's another really critical opportunity for kids to start like wrestling with concepts, start wrestling and understanding, what is a mission? What is a vision? What does that look like when we have, I'm sure you have women in their 50s, 60s, 70s who are just now starting to understand what their heart's mission is, what their purpose is here on this planet. So talk us through like that evolution. So you're in high school, you've realized there's something else that I want. And then this happens, this essential, what I call my crash and burn, probably way different than yours, because mine was partially self-inflicted. When you had this health crisis, what were you thinking at that point? Like, where did that missional vision go at that point?
Yeah. So at that point, I was running my second business now at that time, which was a blog to instill confidence in young girls and women. So my first business was a jewelry company when I was a senior in high school. And I helped build schools in Africa with those profits. And then my second business was this blog. And so I was growing it, really learning confidence, because I do think like confidence is imperative to success. But there was a lot of external things that were happening in my life with my family and just like different things going on. And it led to this, as you called it, the crash and burn. And it was really out of nowhere. I mean, a bacteria got in my bloodstream and started killing all of my organs. And I was this happy, healthy, go lucky 21-year-old. And all of a sudden the doctors are telling my mom, call your family. She has 24 hours. And it was a very, miracle moment that my mom was actually there, because I grew up in South Florida. I went to the University of Florida, which is a 4 hours drive. And I was planning to celebrate a milestone in my blog that weekend. And I invited my mom to come up to celebrate. And my mom's like, nah, it's just all your friends. You don't want me. And I was like, no. Like, I mean, I'm very close to my mom, but I'm like, no, I mean, you've been such a big support. Come up. It'll be a fun weekend. And so that week leading up to it, I was having like different symptoms, like a high fever and the shivers, but everyone's like, oh, it's just the flu. And I even went to a walk-in clinic where they just gave me an IV of fluids and like antibiotics and sent me on my way. And that was like a few hours before I ended up in a coma. But it was really like my mom being there that saved my life, because they were getting ready for the party, my mom and my roommates. I was trying to rest and feel better. And she came into my apartment bedroom, after like I woke up from a nap or whatever it was. And she looked down at me and saw my heart beating rapidly out of my neck. And she's like, Alexa, we're canceling the party. I'm taking you to the emergency room. And someone who's 21 years old, I was like, I don't need to do that. Like, I'll just go to sleep or whatever. Like I could still have the party. And time was of the essence. I mean, an hour, half hour later, I probably wouldn't be here. And it's miracles like that where you have to believe that, you're not alone, and believe that when you trust and surrender to the journey, the right people, the right things, the right situations come into play. And so there's so many different experiences like that from that point on. And I always believed in like the law of attraction, all that stuff too. But it was definitely so many miracle moments in the coma, in the ICU, that really have helped me grow my business as well. Because anyone that's an entrepreneur knows like it's challenging. It's
Yeah.
tough. And as a type A, I try
Yeah.
to control everything and you can't.
Nope, you cannot. And I think
No.
that's also a part of the higher power, like just being with us and being like, it's really cute that you think you can do that, but you need to release the reins a little, sister. So that's so true. And especially being unable to do it, which is probably what you're like leaning into, is like, I couldn't control the thing that had been controlled and going so well, to celebrate a milestone, no matter what that is. And I think it's important that people know milestones should be celebrated at every point. 100 viewers to a million, right? It's a huge part of the journey that people skip over because they're in comparison mode of what somebody else's expectations are, or their own expectations that they've set on yourself. So here you are in the hospital. How long were you actually in the coma?
I was in a coma for 6 days, in the ICU for 10.
Wow. So unreal. So what did you immediately go from that type A persona to not being able to physically do the type A mental? Was the mental still processing after the coma? Were you still able to think, I need to do this, this, and this?
Oh no, when I was when I woke up out of the coma, I had a mask on my face, a tube down my throat, and I was hooked up to 9 different bags of antibiotics. So I couldn't move, breathe, or speak on my own. I was still very much in the danger zone, and as they call it. And my mind was there. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't remember like a lot until afterwards. But those days when I didn't have any control over anything. I remember picturing my mind to be this like pure, healthy pink, and the rest of my body was black and rotting away. And I didn't know I had sepsis. I mean, they didn't tell me anything. I was on so much medication too. And they're trying to like, save my organs and not have this bacteria spread. So I was picturing my mind to be this healthy pink because I felt like sepsis, even though I didn't know what it was, like something was killing my body. And with every ounce of energy I had, I would push this healthy pink color down to the rest of my body to try and heal it with every ounce of energy I had left. And I never read this in a book before. It's just intuitively all I had control over until I got out of the danger zone. And yeah, so it is amazing, the power of the mind.
Have you ever since then found or researched or connected with somebody who has done something similarly? I mean, I know I'm familiar with like Wim Hof who does the breath work. Have you ever seen or heard another story paralleled?
That's good. Dr. Joe Dispenza, I saw speak, and this other a Hay House author. When I met him, I forgot his name right now, but I met him and he was like, I wrote a whole book on this, basically how he was healing MS through, visualization techniques through the mind. And so, yeah, there's a lot of studies done on this. But again, like intuitively, that's all I had control over.
That's so wild. So in this time, like, were you in your faith in this, knowing that there was something else, someone else, like a God, a power that was helping in that process? Or was it just your own will at that point that you felt?
That's a good question. I don't know if I don't think I could decipher between the two.
Yeah.
And when I was in a coma, I still very much remember what I saw, the experience, the visualization, whatever you want to call it. And I was very much at peace, very serene. Like it was only scary when I woke up out of the coma. Like that's when it was really scary. But when I was in a coma, I was running on this field of grass, and there was all these orange mountains like surrounding me, and it was a huge open field of grass, and all of the colors were so vibrant. Like they do not exist in this reality. Like basically, like if you think of like green, it's like the green of the grass was alive. It was just, it was so beautiful. And I remember I was running with the wind, but I wasn't in a body. I was this being of light. And I never thought like, oh, I was going on to the other side, or, of course, whatever anyone believes. I never thought that at all. I was just at peace. I was just super connected with nature, super connected in the moment. So I think when I came out of the coma, it was this experience with me
Yeah.
that helped me heal my body.
That is so incredible. Have you ever seen the movie The Shack?
No,
Oh, you have to watch it. There's this experience where what you're describing literally happens,
really?
and there's multiple people with them.
I need to write this down so I don't
And
forget.
yeah, and there are all of these realms of color, and everyone is
Wow.
their own sense of color, but they're existing in this field. So, like, as you're saying that, I'm like, holy cow, like you actually were like in heaven, but not heaven, or whatever, that like
Wow.
that in
Mhm.
between, right? So it's so incredible. So since then, and since like getting your health somewhat back, because you then did you know that you had the autoimmune system immediately, or it was something that became as you were trying to heal?
Yeah, that came after because 6 months after I was discharged from the hospital, basically, I mean, they don't know the cause of it.
Yeah.
It doesn't really run in my family, but a lot of doctors say because of the trauma and all the antibiotics pumping in my body for such a long
Mhm.
period of time, it can cause that. So
Yeah.
yes, so my near-death experience was one thing that I
Right.
overcame, but it
Yeah.
was the challenge with my autoimmune that's been the most difficult challenge because you can't overcome it. It's chronic.
Mhm.
It caused so much darkness, so much pain in my life. It was very debilitating for many years, and a lot of people don't realize that I actually started WEX
Yeah.
from my bed because many days I was too sick to even get out of bed, too sick to even
Mhm.
walk my dog. But it was my dreams that helped me find that motivation in the community to keep going, to not give up.
Yeah. So did your community of WEX, which is, again, I guys told you guys at the beginning, but it's Women Empower X. You have to go check it out. It's basically like an evolution of women who come together on all different levels, all different ethnicities. Like, it's really the heartbeat of heaven in an organization, which is very similar to my Core Creatives membership, but in a different level, is knowing that here you are in this body inability, right? It's a physical inability. And I'm sure there was mental influence and struggle that was taking place at that same time, but you were still dreaming. You were still activating. How
Mhm.
do you now take and harness that on a consistent basis, especially usually chronic disease has like flares, correct? Are there like times where it
Yes.
flares up, right? And then you're also probably debilitated back to bed. How does that continue to just resonate with who you are, and how do you continue to activate, persevere, if you will?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's tough. I'm not gonna like sugarcoat it that it's
Yeah.
easy. It's not. But what other option do I have, right?
Mhm.
And I've decided that this autoimmune is part of me. It is
Yeah.
part of me, but it does not define what I can or cannot do.
Mhm.
And I have to really surrender to the journey, surrender to the flow, as
Mhm.
people like to say,
Mhm.
when the going gets tough, and when I do have those flares, like if I can't do all the things that I wanted to do. I mean, there were so many times where like I couldn't speak on stages, I couldn't do certain things because I was sick, and I always felt like it was stopping me, and I feel like I could be a lot farther if I was healthier, if I did have that health foundation and all that stuff. But it's made me the person I am today. It's helped me become very empathetic. And
Yeah.
I think empathy is a huge thing that so many people need now. I think that the authentic, vulnerable, empathetic leaders will be the ones that really change the world. And there is something special with that because, many people have sympathy, and that's very different from empathy.
Yeah.
And I think when you've gone through something that's so personal to you, it's easier to relate to people, even if it's something completely different, because that pain is still the same.
Yeah, that's so good. Do you feel like a lot of the people who are a part of your community have like uh, a connection to you because of your history, or it's been an evolution that they kind of separate you from WebEx?
Yeah.
Oh, I
So
just spelled it WebEx, y'all. That's
Wax, yeah,
something
yeah.
else. Wex.
So that's a good question. So I started building my community before I started Wax through social media. You know, I had
Right,
that blog, Hello Perfect,
right.
that I ran for a long time still after everything happened.
What a funny name choice
I
in
know.
comparison to everything that was happening. Again,
I know.
God way.
And I grew an amazing community when Periscope first launched, live streaming. I mean, the moment I started sharing more vulnerably is a moment when my followers went from like 50 people watching live to like thousands of people watching live. And many of them still follow me today, have traveled the country to see me speak in person. And so they connected with me because I showed up every single day, but also I was vulnerable and transparent in the sense of being like, hey, look, here's what I'm going through right now, but I'm still chasing after my dreams, and you can too. I think so many people are waiting till they overcome something to be someone, and you don't have to wait to overcome anything, right?
So
Your
good.
life is going to be filled with challenges and obstacles. So why would you want to spend your entire life just trying to overcome things?
Yeah.
And so I think that is so important that you can inspire people, you can empower people, you can make a difference, even if you don't have all the answers, even if your life's not quote unquote perfect and you're still going through the stuff. And I
Yeah,
think
it's
that's
so
what
true.
really connected me.
I think a huge part of that, and I have clients come all the time and community members who are curious about how they get started, and that understanding of unworthiness blankets them from that activation where they don't feel like they can do something because they haven't fully come through something, right? And
Mhm.
so I'm always saying that, like, you're not teaching from what you don't know. You're teaching from what you have experienced and what you do know, and then it evolves with you as you evolve. If we as a humanity, really, if we think that we have to get to a place of achievement before we can ever look back and help the people up, that would be a really sad race, wouldn't it? Like, we would
Mhm.
never, we would be at the finish line and be like, where's all the people to like high five and cheers and like go out and get drinks with after? Like, there's no party in that. And so I love that you were literally in the midst of it and you were already reaching back to say you can too. And so
Mhm.
you say, help one person, right? Like, what is that again that you love to say for your
Yeah,
mission?
to make a difference in at least one person's life every single day.
So today in Clubhouse, somebody said the acronym HOPE, and it's help one person every day. And
Mm.
so that's exactly what you do. It's what you've been doing. It's what you'll continue to do. And it biblically, there's when the 99 are left just for the one, to find that one flock, one sheep that belongs to the flock. The shepherd will literally leave them all just to find the one, which becomes the prodigal son, which becomes the understanding of the importance and the validation and the worthiness of that one person in the grand scheme of it all, because
Mhm.
without them, there's a component of loss, because you, Alexa, are connected to hundreds and thousands of people who would never have activated because you didn't activate. So I love that, like, you're a fighter. You're absolutely a fighter at the heart of who you are. And now you're doing that consistently, helping people fight for their dreams in the midst of the muck, right? Like, that's just a part of the process, because nobody, not one person, is standing in all their glory. Because if they are, they'd be in heaven. And clearly, if you're in heaven, you're either in a coma or you're not here with us physically. So
Uh-huh.
it's like activating today, right? It's like knowing what that looks like. So for you, at the end of your day, when you're having that reflection moment of hope, helping one person every day, what does that mean? How do you do that on a consistent basis?
That's a good question. So on a consistent basis, I focus on literally the individuals in my community. So for WEX, we have our inner circle, and it's our membership platform. And I really get to know what each person is doing, what their goals are, what their dreams are. And I'm always looking for ways and opportunities to bring them. And I think that's really important, because it's so easy to get caught up with the number of followers. But I believe that, if you really focus on the individual, that individual then helps create that ripple effect of change, and you grow organically that way. So every single day I'm showing up, whether it's through social media, through our coaching, through our different training, through all the platforms, but focusing specifically on one individual at a time.
That's amazing. I love that so much. And I think that it allows for that understanding of one to really come into focus because we do. And especially when you see people with really large numbers, you're like, how are they managing that? And so to give us that freedom of capacity and say, let's just do one thing really well. Let's just work with one person right now really well. There's that ability. And I help people kind of craft high ticket offers. I'm very much about like the understanding of abundance and that true connection. And when you have, dozens of people, hundreds of people, thousands of people in a community, you do lose that interaction, that vulnerability with each person because you're not there as in the same way. And high ticket allows you to stand alongside that person in their journey. Like they feel like a sister or a brother by the end. And at the same time, your deposit of energy, your overflow is validated and valued, and you then can serve at your utmost ability. So I love that what you're talking about is really the example that we should all be living by every single day, and what that looks like to one, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a nurse. I'm sure your nurses were very focused on you when you were in the midst of your situation, to the point that by the end of it, especially after a 6-month stint, they probably felt like family more than your family because they were with you more. I'm so curious, like, as you continue to help the one, as you continue to step into entrepreneurship, because I know that there's more in the inner workings of what's going on in your big dreams. What does the future look like for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I ask myself that every single day.
I know, we all do.
It changes a lot, of course, right? Like I never could have I thought I was going to work in the fashion industry, let alone like
Nice.
everything that's transpired. But the future, my goal is to continue to open doors for women and elevate women's voices. So we're working on a number of ways to achieve that. And so we have a lot of different verticals we're working on alongside our membership and our events. And then also I have a book coming out this year. So I am very excited for that. We don't have the exact date yet with my publisher, but it will be my first published book.
Amazing.
Full publisher. So yeah, there's a lot in the pipeworks, but I would say that the future is really always unknown. But every single day, if I really tune into my intuition and the feelings, then hopefully it will lead me in the right place.
Yes, it will. It totally will. That's amazing. I'm so excited for your book. That's going to be epic, especially with all of the backstory that we've already unpacked here on the show. So once you get it, I will circle this back and we'll be able to highlight everything that you have going on again, because I think that's really valuable.
Thank you.
I am curious because we have a lot of people in the community who have this desire to speak, to share, to get on stages and spread their message. How did you enter into that? And what is a good way or tip or sense of advice that you could give people who are looking to do that?
Yeah, good question. So when I wanted to speak, I literally reached out to 60 different organizations, groups, and they were all very small in my local community, like on meetup.com. And I received all no's or no responses. And I was so discouraged. And I literally was like emailing people that had like a luncheon of 10 women. They bring in a speaker. I was speaking for free. Nope. And I was like, I can never be a public speaker because no one's giving me the opportunity to speak. But I had that burning passion inside of me. And I really believe that if you have that dream, that goal that keeps you up at night and wakes you up in the morning, it is there for a reason. And it is your job not to ignore it. So I had this like epiphany thinking like, why am I putting my dreams in the hands of some stranger? And so instead I was like, you know what, if you're not going to let me speak at your event, I'm going to create my own event. And that's exactly what I did. And my first event had 5 people show up. I got like this local co-working space to donate a little classroom. And I was like, yes, I get to inspire 5 people today.
Yes.
And then it grew to 20 people, 30 people. And then the idea for Women Empower X came about. So this was even before WEX. And so, I would say, create your own stage. whether it's through a podcast is a stage, live streaming, Clubhouse, virtual events, an actual in-person event. Like if you want to speak, start speaking. And then of course, continue to pitch yourself. And that momentum matters. Momentum really, really matters, especially in the speaking world. The more you speak, the more opportunities you'll get to speak. So start now. And live streaming is such a great opportunity because you gain practice speaking live to a live audience, and you have to like feed off of them. And if someone asks you a question, like it's such a good opportunity to really grow as a speaker.
I love that. I think so many people inhibit themselves because of that. There's that like one lens, right? Again, going back to what you said at the beginning, it's like we have this one understanding of what public speaking looks like, especially from what we did in student government. It's like, okay, you have a microphone, you have a podium, and then there's a lot of people in the crowd. And it's this numbers game that first off throws us off. Like, who's going to listen to me? So what if it's your mom? So what if it's your aunt? So what if it's your sibling or your spouse? Like, get in front of people and start practicing. And then the other huge limiting belief that I think people end up stopping behind is this right here, this camera. It's right here, right? Like people are like, I hate cameras. I'm so fearful of it. Well, one, we know that you can do non-cameras, but we also know, and I'm actually teaching on it tonight at 6:00 at PodFest Global, that video is everything. It's where everything is going. And actually, even somebody within Facebook said by the end of 2021 that they believe the entire platform will be video. So understanding where things are going, the differences, and why I think it works okay with Clubhouse and has worked really well actually, is that there is still a sound and there is still a picture. And so that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be like live and in action, but I promise you that vulnerability is what gains true connection. You experienced it right out the gate when you started just opening up on Periscope, right? And just saying, this is me, this is what I'm going through. People want partnership in the things that they feel isolated within. And that's like ultimately what we all want, is just connection.
Yeah, we need connection. I think this last year has shown us that as well.
Yes, very, very much so. So I'm curious too. So we talked about your past, we talked about the present, we talked about the future. I want to know how in a consistent, like in a day-to-day, going back to that type A personality, that entrepreneurial drive, how do you show up for yourself? And even in knowing your health is a part of that every single day too. Do you have a morning routine? What does that look like?
Yeah, that's a good question. I definitely am very in tune with my body. So I love waking up early and getting the day started with, reading something, my cup of coffee, like doing some meditation. And it's more just like visualization techniques, and maybe working out in the afternoon. But I used to like get really upset if I didn't wake up at a certain time. But I know that for my autoimmune, it's all in the gut. So the only time your gut has to heal is when you're sleeping. Yeah. So I have listened to my body. If I feel super tired or like I just need to rest, I will allow myself to rest without having that guilt. And I think that's really important. And then also I definitely have been way better than I was like maybe a few years ago with taking weekends for family and friends, for doing different like hobbies outside of work. So definitely family and my fiance, like they help a lot.
So fun. So with like having that connection piece and knowing that that's important, not just in your family, but also within your mind, right? Like that mental capacity of visualization and manifestation is so important through practice of quiet, practice of breath work, all of those different things that people utilize nowadays. With the change of COVID and the not speaking in the same capacity as the events, do you have plans of live events this year? Because I am like all for it. I'm like, I got to get with people. Let's go.
Yeah. We have our DC event still scheduled right now, but we are in talks with the DC Convention Center and CDC guidelines and everything. And WEX in-person events are so magical, and they're all about like hugging, like we say you come to WEX not to share what you do, but really who you are. And it forms these connections. Everyone's just like a big like love fest in a professional way. but and so like everyone says like the Wex energy, it's like magical, and I really want to make sure that if we are able to host an in-person event,
Yeah.
that it's still there
Yeah.
and it is safe for everyone.
Yeah.
So we're not positive about an in-person event this year, but we are positive about in-person events in the future.
Awesome. I love that so much. It is so necessary. We just took 7 women, 8 including myself, to Tulum, Mexico last week. And it was amazing to be there. One, because of the intimacy and being able to be with people and truly pour into those people that were there. But 2, we didn't have to wear masks the whole time we were there. It was amazing, minus the flights, obviously, because it was just our little pod. We were out in nature. There was no need for it. And it was incredible to just have a deeper sense of partnership, of that connection that we so desperately need, just based on our facial expressions. Like, I couldn't have imagined being around the table, having the depth of conversation that we were having, people crying, people like hugging on each other and having to have a mask on it. So I totally admire the response of you saying, you know, if this is, I don't want there to be this limiting understanding of what Wex is or their experience of Wex simply because they're wearing a mask, which is bananas that that's a limiting factor, but it truly is.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, because like the last event we had was actually literally 1 year ago. We were able to host Wex in LA, February 29th of 2020, right before everything happened.
Oh, God.
And so that is the last event. Everyone remembers it. It was like, you know, incredible. It was our first time on the West Coast. And so when we do come back, we want to make sure to come back in all of the Wex glory.
Yeah, well, DC is a quick little drive for me. So hopefully whenever it works out, I will be there. I would love to, so much so, just to be in your presence and to be in the presence of the community. Again, you guys got to check out the website. You have an Instagram account too for Wex, right?
Yes, everything is at Women Empower X.
There you go. And then I said her Instagram name earlier, but it's actually Alexa Rose, which is a beautiful middle name, Carlin. So make sure you check her out. She's on TikTok. She's on Reels. She's all the places as we need to be these days, which can be exhausting. But honestly, when you have a heartbeat, like I really believe we share a heartbeat towards what it is that we do, specifically empowering women to speak up, but also to light up, like be lit in the thing that makes you passionate. And it doesn't have to look like me. It doesn't have to look like Alexa. It has to look like what God ordained you to do. And that could be based on your testimony. Likely it is, but it's likely just something that's been boiling. It could have been something that's been festering for a really long time. And you've continued to say no, just based on what you said, because you're waiting on things to be perfect, or you're waiting on you to get past something. And so I hope today's message, above all else, it evokes emotion, but it also evokes action. And it tells you to stand up and light up for the people around you, because you are so intentional with where you're at right now today. So thank you for that. Thank you for that deposit today, Alexa. Know that you have a freebie that you want to give out to the audience today. Do you want to tell them about this opportunity?
Yeah, I totally forgot what
It's the action plan, which is perfect for what I was saying. Give them that action.
Yes, our action plan. So I know how overwhelming it could be to start any new business or new project. And for me, I always got stuck. I'm like, okay, here's step 1. Now what? And so I developed a strategy called the backwards action plan that I literally use for every single time I'm venturing into a new project, a new idea. And so we lay it out completely for you that within literally 5 minutes, you can have a full on action plan to get going and growing. So good.
Yeah. Get going and growing. That's going in the intro. That was awesome. I appreciate you. I appreciate your resilience, honestly, is what it is. And it's a beautiful thing to witness. And so I know people will be motivated by that. And I'm excited to continue to follow your journey, get your book, all the things, and come to a Wex conference. That's going to be fun.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. All right, y'all, go check her out. Go find all the things. Get that action plan so you can go and grow. I love it. See you later.